All right, let's dive right into this explainer and look at a historical glitch that frankly challenges pretty much everything we think we know about the timeline of human history. Today, we're looking at a document that, according to modern science and geology, simply shouldn't exist at all. 1820. That is the year Antarctica was officially discovered by explorers. I want you to keep that date in the back of your mind as we go through this, because that widely accepted, rock-solid historical fact makes the subject of today's analysis a complete, mind-bending physical and temporal impossibility. So, let's get into Section 1, an impossible 16th century map. To really grasp the scale of this anomaly, we've got to wind the clock way back to the year 1513. Preserved today deep within the archives of Istanbul's Topkapi Palace, there's a map drawn by an Ottoman admiral named Piri Reis. And at first glance, it looks just like an ordinary 16th century chart of the known world. But if you look closely, right down at the bottom of that aged parchment, nestled there and drawn with uncanny accuracy, is a section of land that appears to be the northern coastline of Antarctica. And here's the kicker. It shows the continent completely, 100% free of ice. Now, you might be wondering, why is that such a massive problem? Well, because 6,000 is the absolute minimum number of years that modern science says Antarctica has been covered in solid ice. Think about that for a second. That predates the rise of Mesopotamia, ancient Egypt, literally every known advanced human civilization. So how on earth did a 16th century Ottoman admiral map a continent he couldn't have even known existed, let alone map it without its massive, crushing ice cap? Moving on to Section 2. Beneath the Antarctic ice. To understand just how wild this is, just look at how the history unfolds here on this timeline. Piri Reis draws the map in 1513. We don't officially find Antarctica until 1820. Then the map actually gets lost, only to be dramatically rediscovered on a dusty shelf in a Turkish palace in 1929. But the real aha moment doesn't hit until the 1960s. That's when a U.S. Air Force captain named Lorenzo Burroughs decided to compare this old parchment to newly captured seismic radar images. Captain Burroughs' conclusion was absolutely staggering. The match with the subglacial coastline, and by that I mean the actual physical bedrock beneath miles of solid blue ice, was spot on. The shape, the curvature, the topography lined up beautifully with modern radar data. It was exactly as if whoever drafted the original source material had somehow meticulously surveyed Antarctica long before it ever froze over. But what deepens the mystery even further are Piri Reis's own handwritten notes right there on the margins. He never actually claimed to have discovered this land or sailed there himself. No, he explicitly stated that he merely compiled his chart from dozens of older source maps. Some were from Portuguese explorers, sure, but others were rumored to date all the way back to the time of Alexander the Great, and some were of completely unknown origin. He was basically just copying geographic data from centuries or perhaps even millennia before his time. Which brings us to Section 3, what the skeptics say. Now, to remain completely impartial here, we absolutely have to examine the mainstream pushback from historians and cartography experts, because there are two very different interpretations of the exact same ink. While some researchers see a miraculous match of Antarctica's subglacial coastline, skeptics argue that the bottom of the map is simply a really badly drawn misrepresentation of South America. To them, the supposed resemblance to Antarctica is just a highly selective, exaggerated interpretation born out of really common 16th century geographic errors. Skeptics also make a very fair point about the historical habits of cartographers back in the 1500s. They often included imaginary lands, massive unknown continents, maybe even a sea monster or two, just to fill in the blank, uncharted spaces on their parchments. The main argument here is that filling empty space with a giant southern continent was just the standard decorative practice of the era, and they completely dismiss that subglacial radar match as nothing more than a pure coincidence. But honestly, this leaves us with a lingering paradox. If the skeptics are entirely right and it's just a badly drawn South America or some imaginary decorative blob, how do we explain those documented alignments with highly advanced satellite and radar technology? And why did Piri Reis specifically take the time to write extensive notes detailing his ancient lost sources for that exact region? Let's look at Section 4, a global cartographic mystery. The plot thickens significantly when you zoom out for a second and realize the Piri Reis map is definitely not an isolated anomaly. Just look at this table. You've got the Orontes Phineas map from 1531 or the Bouaché map from 1737. Both of these historical documents vividly depict a very similar landmass in the Antarctic region, and again with coastlines totally unburdened by ice. The crucial takeaway for us here is that we might be looking at a hidden legacy of geographic knowledge that just kept resurfacing through time. It's like these cartographers possessed brilliant fragments of information that they didn't even fully understand themselves. This wasn't one Ottoman admiral's isolated mistake. It was a recurring piece of lost data stubbornly popping up throughout human history.
Next up is Section 5, the lost civilization theory. This recurring anomaly begs a really fascinating question. Where on Earth did this incredibly precise geographic knowledge originally come from? Well, theories run the gamut. You've got ancient astronauts passing down knowledge to early humans, or the legendary myth of Atlantis. But one of the more grounded, major theories proposes that a highly advanced global seafaring civilization actually existed tens of thousands of years ago, a culture navigating and mapping the globe with remarkable accuracy before some massive cataclysm wiped them out entirely.
Proponents of this theory point to a very real geological event known as the Younger Dryas period. This was a time of sudden, dramatic climate change and mass extinction that happened roughly 12,000 years ago. The hypothesis suggests that any physical evidence of this advanced global culture, aside from their incredible cartographic knowledge, was violently and completely erased during this catastrophic era. If we entertain this geological theory for a moment, it actually answers a lot of questions. Because it wouldn't just explain the mystery behind these impossible maps. It could connect the dots on other ancient anomalies we see around the world. Things like unexplainable megalithic structures and incredibly precise ancient star alignments. These forgotten maps might just be a surviving fragment of a much larger, lost global survey.
And that brings us to Section 6, rethinking our historical timeline.
This is honestly the most fascinating part of this entire anomaly to me. This map isn't locked away in some dark conspiracy vault in Area 51. It's a real physical document held in a renowned museum in plain view. Historians see it, researchers study it, yet the deeper implications are often just carefully avoided. Why? Because admitting that 16th century cartographers had access to 6,000-year-old subglacial topographical data would crack the very foundation of human history as we teach it today. It's exactly like one researcher perfectly summarized it. The Piri Reis map isn't definitive proof of a forgotten civilization, but it's a crack in the wall, a glitch in the official timeline. You see, this isn't about jumping to wild conclusions about aliens or lost continents. It's about objectively questioning the very real physical gaps in our historical knowledge. When you follow those cracks, they often lead somewhere completely unexpected. So I'm going to leave you with this final thought to ponder today. If a 16th century admiral could piece together a map of Antarctica without ice, what else have we lost to time? If our timeline of history is this incomplete, what other incredible truths are still hiding right in front of us, just waiting for us to look a little closer?